rounding third with home plate in sight. But even the best players need a coach to wave them in. Safe! Welcome to Perfect Game Retirement, hosted by Ryan Ledden, former pro baseball player, University of Georgia economics graduate, and now certified financial planner with Black Oak Asset Management. He's here to guide you through the final stretch and help you slide safely into a winning retirement. Play ball!
Well, hello, welcome in. This is Perfect Game Retirement. Glad to have you with us here on the show this week. We got a good one coming up for you as we talk about road trips. Well, what do they have to do with retirement? Well, there's a long list of checklist items that you probably go through for a road trip that you also should have on your list for retirement. We'll tell you about those. Also, some famous last words. What are some statements that might come back to bite you if you make them about retirement? Great show coming up with you. As always, we're joined by Ryan Ledden, who is the president and financial coach. Also, he is a certified financial planner at Black Oak Asset Management with offices in Alpharetta, Macon, Lawrenceville, and now, of course, Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida as well. Ryan, how are you this week?
Yeah, doing good. Good morning. It's pretty cool to hear all those different offices. It started with one, and it's kind of continued on to a few others, and to be in a new state's a cool thing.
Yeah, it is a cool thing. Remember, you can find everything online at retireperfect.com. Learn more about Black Oak Asset Management, but also you can schedule a time to meet with Ryan. We always offer that free consultation for anyone listening to Perfect Game Retirement, and we're glad you're here. But I know, Ryan, of course, before we jump into it, I know it's a fun time of year, September, with football back up and running, college, NFL, and then also the Braves season winding down. Not what the Braves fans wanted this year, of course, but still fun to kind of see all this coming together here this month.
Yeah, it's September, October are definitely the better 2 months for sports. Selfishly, I think baseball and football, you have them in the same month. That's probably the best case scenario. But yeah, the Bravos, man, they're just still my team. They'll always be my team. I watched them every day when they were in their baby blues in the early to mid '80s when they were terrible, and I still watched them then, and we'll still watch them now. But yeah, I saw some crazy stat on ESPN not too long ago. It's like over 30 games that they've lost by one run, and I mean it's just a game. When you play 162 games and there's that many just razor thin margins of error throughout the whole season, you just go back and go, God, they just won half of those games. They're right in the thick of, definitely the wild card, maybe even the NL East. So it's heartbreaking at times to see how many one-run losses they have, because in any one-run loss, you can go back and go, oh, if this, and it just hadn't panned out. And that happens in baseball a lot. So hopefully they can recover from this and maybe stay healthy next year, which they've been plagued with injuries, and hopefully they can have a better season next year.
Yeah, little things here or there could make all the difference over the long term. It's very much like what you do at Black Oak Asset Management, preparing people for retirement. But yeah, it's been quite a season indeed, but a lot to look forward to, I think, in the year or two ahead. So should be a lot of fun. Well, again, let's jump into this, because I know this is a perfect topic for you, Ryan, as we talk about road trips today, because as a father of a couple of kids that are playing sports all over the country, you are quite often playing
lots of
road trips, aren't you? So what we want to talk about is, as you prepare and you're ready to head off on whatever trip you're heading to next, you got to put the checklist of items together. I'm sure you kind of run through them by memory at this point, but there's a lot of things that kind of cross over in retirement planning as well. So these are some things that should appear on both your road trip checklist, but also your retirement planning checklist. So number one, you got to decide where you're going. Okay, that's the first and most obvious one, Ryan. Can't go without being said here about retirement planning, because oftentimes people don't know where they're headed, do they?
Unfortunately, no. And I don't remember the name of the company, to be honest. I saw this commercial for the first time, I think this past weekend or a week ago or something, and there was two gentlemen sitting at a table, I don't know if they're at a restaurant or whatever, and one guy's like looking at his phone going, oh, here's all my goals and plans and this and that and that. And then he asks his buddy that they're having dinner, lunch, whatever with, and he just kind of had his fingers up in the air with his fingers crossed going, oh, retirement. So that guy has no plan. He's just thinking it's just going to take care of itself. And it really doesn't. So that's, you got to have that destination. You got to know where you're going, what you want to do. I mean, there's so many variables that go into this that I think it can get overwhelming for a lot of people. So because it's overwhelming, then they don't plan. So again, that's where working with an advisor can help you do that and figure out, okay, here's where I'm at. This is where I would like to be. This is how much income I would like. This is when I would like to retire. I mean, all those different variables. And then, you need to have that retirement plan. What does it look like when you combine all of your assets, all of your income, whether it's, passive income, working part-time, pensions, whatever it may be, compiling that all together and figuring out what does that look like? I mean, how much income do you really need? How much can you afford to take based off of what you have saved and incomes that you do have? And whether that, again, could be a pension, could be annuity, whatever guaranteed income streams that you do have, what else do we have that are kind of filtering in? And, it's not as, sometimes on the surface, it may seem very, very easy, but then when you start factoring in what do taxes look like, what does, Medicare premiums look like, and taxable income, I mean, it's a lot. It can be overwhelming for some. Some can navigate it on their own, and that's okay. Maybe you have huge streams of guaranteed income from a pension, and that covers you on a monthly basis. So, maybe some of that planning is not as of a head scratcher for you versus someone else who has to produce their income from their assets. So, but there's still legacy things you have to think about, estate planning. So a lot goes in, but you really need to know where is that nose of the plane headed. You need to know what direction, because if it's just a little bit off kilter, it's going to take you in a destination you may not want.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you kind of mentioned all those factors, which takes us to this next item on the checklist, which is determining your route. I know this has changed a lot from when we were growing up, when we actually had maps and maybe even print out a map on MapQuest if you remember that website. But for retirement planning, Ryan, how do you go about determining the route that someone needs to take to get to that destination where they've decided they want to go to?
Yeah, I remember flipping like pages of the MapQuest directions. You're like, okay, I'm done that turn, so I got to flip over this page. But yeah, it's and I remember even having maps in my car, because when I got drafted out of high school, I'm going to spring training down in Florida, and I remember my dad like putting like every state map in the side console of my car of places that I could play at, and he had the highlighted route. I mean, oh my gosh, we've come a long way, and that wasn't that long ago. It doesn't feel like anyway, but. So yeah, retirement is not just punching in, a few numbers and then poof, your retirement's planned out for you. It's a little bit more complex than that. If it was that easy, then I probably wouldn't have a job. I'd be doing something else right now. So yeah, there's a lot of determining factors, different routes, you could take on this retirement road trip. So, we have so many different variables that we put into just our financial planning software, much less the investments and taxes and things of that nature. But just the financial planning software, there's so many different scenarios that we can run and toggle these different decisions off and on. So, hey, we want to take Social Security at this age. We want to retire on this income. All right, well, maybe that doesn't work. Let's turn that one off. Let's turn this one on. So there's so many different ways of going about doing it, and it will change, and it'll show your percentages of success and how much you would potentially have left over when you pass away, you and your spouse. So, and again, that's not an exact science either, but it does bake in positive and negative years of rates of return, and because you don't want to have anything that's linear, you want to have different rates of return baked in there. In negative years, you want to bake in inflation. You want to increase that income over time. So how does that work? What accounts do we pull these incomes from? So yeah, it's not just as easy as putting in, one single X factor and then poof, your retirement is now known. There's a lot because life can change in an instant. We need care at different ages. So just a lot of different factors, and we want to take really any and every factor into consideration.
Yeah, and if you need help trying to determine your route, need help discussing where you're going, again, we offer you the opportunity to take advantage of this free consultation with Ryan over at Perfect Game, or over at Black Oak Asset Management here on Perfect Game Retirement. Just go to retireperfect.com. Again, retireperfect.com. You'll see the button right there at the top that schedules that free consultation. There's also some great resources there as well that get into some of these things we're discussing, but it all begins by going to retireperfect.com. All right, a couple more items on our checklist here. Our road trip checklist, as we tie it into retirement planning. You got to decide what you're going to listen to. And again, this has changed quite a lot over the years as well. You have your phone now that you can just pull up a playlist. Before, we had CDs, maybe CD changer in the back trunk of your vehicle, maybe determining depending on what you had. I don't know, but and this time it's not music we're listening to here, Ryan, for retirement. But there's so much noise now from all around us. It's all about figuring out who you're going to listen to, right?
Yeah, noise, you hit the nail on the head there. There's noise everywhere. I mean, there's an abundance of information at our fingertips, and we're starving for wisdom. There's knowledge everywhere, but we're starving for our wisdom and how it pertains to our situation, because you can hear, again, educate yourself. I'm not saying to completely turn off, TVs and financial news and podcasts and all that stuff. Like, this is a radio show, same thing. We're trying to deliver as much education as possible and as much wisdom as possible. But everyone's life is different. Just because the news networks say this and the sky is falling, it may not pertain to your situation whatsoever. So you really do, am I going to work with an advisor? Am I going to do this on my own? Are you going to be able, if you do it on your own, be able to turn those things off and on? Hey, get the news information that you need, but then don't go down that rabbit hole of scrolling through TikTok and all this stuff where you may not be getting good sources of information, because anybody can go on these social media platforms and have an opinion on these certain things. So are you going to work with an advisor? Do you have a CPA? Do you have an estate planning attorney? I mean, I think those three entities are very important to have in your retirement life. So you have to figure out, what path are you going to take? And for some, I mean, using those three entities that I just mentioned, an advisory firm, a CPA, an estate planning attorney, those all cost money. But those entities that cost money may give you a peace of mind. So you want to have value getting delivered from those three entities. So you shouldn't look at them as a cost. They should be a value. And if that peace of mind gives you that value, then that's the route you need to take. So you just need to know who you're going to listen to when you have to make sometimes some of the biggest decisions of your life when you get to retirement.
Yeah, and a lot of times, the advice isn't necessarily bad advice. It just might not fit you, right? I mean, there's so many different target audiences, and some of it's just general, and some of it's for people that aren't in your same position. So that's why you want to work with someone that can help kind of dial in on where you're headed, how you're going to get there. And again, Black Oak Asset Management can help you with that. All right, one last one, Ryan. It's nice to use cruise control when we can. Obviously, we can't always use it on a road trip, but it is nice to be able to just sit back and not have to focus too hard. How does this apply to the financial life? I know it is nice to kind of be in a position where you don't have to worry as much, but how do you get there?
Yeah, I mean, using cruise control and even, some of these self-driving things it's just way too much effort to put your hands on the steering wheel. You can really, really sit back. And I don't have my truck is not equipped to do that. It's a 2022, but it still doesn't have all those new bells and whistles on there. Cruise control, yes. And it's nice to be able to go down, like if you're going straight down 75, headed to Florida, 70 mile an hour speed limit zone, hit it on cruise control and just let it go. But, we're not going to get to our destination going, 75 miles an hour the entire way. You have to put your brakes on. You need to accelerate. You need to steer. You need to maneuver. And that's exactly the parallels of retirement. Like, there are some times, especially like with your investment portfolio, you don't want to be driving down the road at 75 miles an hour, taking on a huge amount of risk. Maybe there's some parts of your life or some parts of your portfolio that you need to be going 40 miles an hour. So you need to pump the brakes a little bit, know when to completely stop if you can, maybe from pulling money out, which we had people do during COVID or during 2022. They kind of pumped the brakes on maybe their retirement income because the market wasn't doing well or nobody was doing anything during COVID. So you always need to be able to make adjustments. Having it on cruise control and on autopilot would be great, but there are adjustments that need to be made, just like, in retirement. And you have to constantly make adjustments, sometimes month to month, week to week.
And this is what you do every day at Black Oak Asset Management. As a certified financial planner, this is the work that you do with clients all the time. And if you are approaching retirement, you can go to retireperfect.com. Book the free consultation. Ryan, take us into this process and kind of what someone needs to expect when they first sit down with you.
Yeah, it's just a phone call to start out with. It's kind of an easy icebreaker, if you will, just to have a conversation on the phone, 15 to 20 minutes. That's usually all it takes, is an introductory type call. Sometimes that's all it takes is a 15 to 20-minute phone call to maybe answer some of the questions that you do have. There'll probably be more answers given more in general, if you will, but really, really drilling down. That kind of comes with our first in-person meeting after that phone call or a Zoom call. Again, not everybody we work with is right in our backyard here in the metro Atlanta area. So we offer that Zoom call up as an in-depth kind of piggyback to the 15 to 20-minute phone call. So we do the phone call, lengthier in-person meeting if it gets to that point, and then after that in-person or Zoom call, that's when people either decide to move forward with us or not. And so that's kind of a 3-step process before any kind of transfers or real specific planning takes place. But that's kind of how the process works.
All right. Again, it begins at retireperfect.com. Log on. Go ahead and take advantage of that free consultation. Begin your process towards retirement. Again, retireperfect.com. All right. We got more coming up here on Perfect Game Retirement with Ryan Ledden. We're going to be talking about some of the famous last words that people might make. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Perfect Game Retirement.
Thanks for being with us here on Perfect Game Retirement with Ryan Ledden at Black Oak Asset Management. Again, you can find everything online at retireperfect.com. They have offices in Alpharetta, Macon, and Lawrenceville, serving all of the Atlanta area and beyond. So be sure to log on, schedule that free consultation, take advantage. Also, while you're on retireperfect.com, women, take advantage of the book. I know you have spent some time putting this together also with Autumn in your office. Ryan, From Heartbreak to Financial Health, a guide for single women. Now, it's targeted for women that are maybe divorced or widowed, but I know any female can take advantage and get something out of this book, correct?
Yeah. I mean, we've done educational seminars where there's females in the audience who are still married, so don't think it's exclusive to people who have been women who have been divorced or widowed. It's for anyone out there. I mean, we just see a large need targeting women out there who, and it's just like our other books. I mean, it's supplying as much education as possible. So same thing, go through the kit, the books, the supplemental materials. And if you like what you read and you're like, hey, I like this group, I like, Ryan and Autumn, what they wrote in this book, and I'd love to have a further conversation, that's exactly what it's for, just like the other books that we have written. So we just saw a big need. It's statistically speaking, males are going to pass away before females, and that's putting a lot on women's plate to be making these decisions. Maybe they have been for years and years and years, but maybe they haven't. So we've just seen a big need for that. So we thought that we would address that and supply this book for people who want it.
All right, you can click the link right there on retireperfect.com to request a copy of the book and take advantage, because there's a lot of great information there. And again, it's a need that they've seen at Black Oak and want to help women out that are in this position to improve and better position themselves financially. All right, let's get into a mailbag question before we get into our last topic here today, Ryan. And this question came in from Steve in Bremen, who says, my company just started offering a 401k in addition to their regular 401k. Should I switch to Roth or put half in the Roth and half in a traditional? What do you think?
Good question, Steve. That's good that you realize that they have just offered a Roth 401k. Some plans or some employers don't do a great job of letting everyone know, because I don't know how many conversations I've had with people that say, hey, clients that we work with, hey, do you have a Roth component to your 401k? No, I don't. Well, sometimes it's listed as just after tax. Well, it's the same thing. After tax and Roth 401k is the same thing. So it's nice to have that option because inside of a Roth 401k, to be able to put substantial amounts of money, because in an outside Roth IRA, you can only put $7,000 in there, or $8,000 if you're over the age of 50. So if you have access, and there are income restrictions on that Roth IRA, but in a Roth 401k, there are zero income restrictions, and you can put much, much more inside the Roth. So I am biased, Steve, toward that. So in general, would I put at least some of that in a Roth? Yes, I really do think, to get specific with you, Steve, is really knowing your tax situation. What tax bracket are you in? How close are you going to the next tax bracket? Because you can split some of those contributions into the Roth 401k and then some in the traditional pre-tax 401k. So you don't have to put it all in one or the other. You can split them up. So, Steve, I'm not exactly 100% answering your question. I would definitely put some into the Roth because, again, just building that money up and letting it grow, and not paying tax on it again is a great thing. But really just know what your current tax situation is. And that's where, again, sitting down with a planner will definitely help. So, again, shameless plug there. But you can find, if it's not us, then you can find someone else out there that will help you with that tax planning component to know where you reside and what tax bracket you're in.
All right, go to retireperfect.com to get that help. And also to send in any questions you might have, you can reach out to us via the website, retireperfect.com. But Steve, thanks for that question. It's a good one. We hope this helped you out. All right, let's get into our final topic here. Famous last words. So an engineer who helped build the Titanic said, even God himself could not sink this ship. Well, we saw how that turned out. So let's talk about some of the financial statements people make that often come back to bite them in the end. And let's start with this one, Ryan. I like the security of keeping my money in cash because I know at least I won't lose it. I know cash is good to have. You want to have some on hand, Ryan, but keeping it all there could be trouble, right?
Yeah, I mean, cash, Dave Ramsey says that cash is king, and in a lot of situations it is. Keeping everything in cash, no. I mean, inflation is going to chew that up and eventually hurt the purchasing power of it. I see the rationale behind keeping cash on hand, and it's a secure feeling, but again, you almost need to think that some of that money is going away eventually year over year over year. Inflation is that kind of slow drip that kind of sneaks up on you, and a decade goes by and prices have, doubled. And we've definitely seen that in the last few years. So, these famous last words kind of quotes, it kind of reminds me of baseball, the superstitions in baseball, you don't jinx things. That's almost, I think these famous last words are like jinxes, if you will. You never say, oh man, this game's going by so fast. Well, no, as soon as you said that, the game's going to slow down to a snail's pace, or, hey, this guy hasn't given up a hit yet. They're going to give up a hit when you say it out loud. So you kind of speak this stuff into existence sometimes. But yeah, keeping the security of cash is great up to a certain point. Then it needs to be diversified and invested elsewhere.
All right. What about this one? Nobody in my family has lived past 75, so I'm not really planning to live a long time either. I know a lot of times we base our longevity based on our family history, but can't always trust that, can you?
No, because it's a component of it. But I would be irresponsible advisor if I'm like, yep, we're going to build this plan out to 75 years of age, and then if you live to 76, good luck to you. We're not going to do that. So I'm okay with showing people, okay, if you want this thing run out to 75, I get it. Family history's there, but there's always people that break that family history. So let's take a look at that. Okay, but then let's build it out to 80, 85, even 90. Let's see what that looks like. Because if you do get to a certain age, and most statistics show if you get to about the age of 60 to 65 and you're healthy, there's a really good chance that you're going to be living into your maybe reach the age of 90. So we need to plan for that. Again, I'm okay if you just, maybe you already have an illness and, but there's always times where you can break through those percentages. My mom did it. I mean, she eventually passed away, but she battled it for 14 years. And they thought there was no way that she could live that long. So there's people that can break through those barriers. So we want to plan for longer.
Definitely plan for longer and make sure you're in a good position. You don't want to leave retirement up to chance. Go to retireperfect.com. You can take advantage of the free consultation we offer you for listening to the show. We appreciate you being here and want to give you the opportunity to sit down with Black Oak Asset Management and be talking about your retirement, how to get there, how to make sure you can live a long retirement and enjoy that, have a fulfilling life in retirement. Again, go to retireperfect.com. All right, how about these famous last words, Ryan? I won't ever go into the nursing home. I'd rather just be put out of my misery than have to end up there. Sometimes it's not in our control, is it?
No, it's not. And I hear that probably on a monthly basis from my next door neighbor, who's my dad. He lives in the property next to us, and he jokes all the time about, take me out to the middle of a lake and push me over. I'm like, well, yeah, that's not going to happen because I'm not going to be charged with that the rest of my life. So, we're just going to have to do what we have to do. But it's my grandmother, my 98-year-old grandmother is going through that right now. She's been in independent living for almost 10 years now, and she's 98, and she's almost 98, and she's starting to have some physical issues, and now she's going to have to go to a nursing home. And so that's tough for people who have been independent for almost 98 years of your life, and all of a sudden you're not independent. So I can't imagine, because I know I'm as stubborn as they get. So I know that would be very, very difficult to think about, but sometimes it's a needed thing. And sometimes we need people to help us make those decisions when the time arises. It's just part of life, unfortunately. So it's part of the discussions that we have. It's not fun conversations, but we have to have those. It's irresponsible if we don't.
All right, one last one I want to throw your way here. This is something somebody might say heading into retirement. Hey, I can always go back to work if I really have to. Ryan, that's not a position you want to be in, is it?
No, it's not, because most people, they like the idea of that, but usually when they're not answering to anyone and not having to live by a schedule or work calendar, it's very difficult to go back. Now, I guess if some people absolutely have to, they have to, but you don't want that to be your plan for retirement. You want that as like plan D. You don't want that as plan A. You want to be able to retire appropriately and not go, but if it doesn't work out, I'll just go back to work, because it's sometimes difficult to find work at certain ages. Age discrimination is not supposed to be a thing, but it's a thing. So it's tough to get around that hurdle. So we don't want to have that plan that, I can always go back if I go back to work if I really have to. You don't want that as a part of your plan.
You definitely don't. And I think that's the biggest key here, Ryan, just kind of summarizing this topic and why we want to talk about it is, it's easy to kind of have these ideas in mind about retirement and what you think is going to happen and what it might look like, and feel like you're in pretty good shape, and there's a chance you might be, but you want to eliminate a lot of that doubt and uncertainty, right? And just make sure, no matter what life throws your way, you're going to be prepared. And that's what you guys do at Black Oak Asset Management.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard when we run these financial plans for people, sometimes it's very difficult to have a 100% like foolproof plan. There's always adjustments that are going to be made, but it's very rare unless there's just substantial amounts of guaranteed income on a monthly basis and your monthly needs are not that much. Very, very rarely does our software say 100%. So if you're in the 90s, that's outstanding. If you're in the 80s, that's outstanding, because there's always adjustments that can be made. And it usually depends on, from year to year. It depends on what kind of plans you have for that year. Usually there's more spending that goes on early on versus kind of in your slower years, if you will. So it does happen. You need to be able to make adjustments and pivot when you need to. But yes, that's why we revisit these plans all the time, because I tell people, hey, this is a great retirement plan, but it's going to change. It's just life does not happen linear, and this is where you need to have someone in your corner to help you when those times change.
Well, go to retireperfect.com. You can take advantage of that free consultation, begin talking about some of these things, and letting Ryan and the team at Black Oak Asset Management get a better feel for who you are, your goals, where you want to head, and hopefully get you in that position to be confident heading into retirement, which is the goal. Again, go to retireperfect.com. Also, while you're there, make sure you get your hands on that book, From Heartbreak to Financial Health, a guide for single women. You can request your free copy today at retireperfect.com. That'll do it for us this week here on Perfect Game Retirement. Really appreciate you being a part of the show. Ryan, I hope you have a good week and look forward to doing this again with you same time next week.
Information provided is for informational purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Please consult with a qualified professional before taking any action. Securities and registered investment advisory services offered through Silver Oak Securities, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Black Oak Asset Management and Silver Oak Securities, Inc. are not affiliated.